10 signs you are traumatized. Extremely stressful events we experience, such as being in an accident, watching a loved one die, or a natural disaster, might have their toll on our physical and mental health as a response to the experience. This response is called trauma. If you've experienced such traumatic events, it is possible that you are living with trauma. Recent reports believe that as much as 50% of the U.S. population will experience at least one traumatic event in their lifetime. Of that 50%, approximately 9 to 10% will go on to develop PTSD. Those percentages go up if you are a person of color or of lower socioeconomic status. Traumatic events can have far-reaching consequences for their survivors. Feelings of fear and loss of control can lead many to develop a variety of symptoms and often appear shaken and disoriented. From big T, which involve events like combat, war zone, car or plane accident, natural disaster, terrorist attack, sexual assault, to little t, which involves infidelity, divorce, legal and financial troubles, interpersonal conflict, life transitions, it's enough to cause severe distress and interfere with an individual's daily functioning. Hello, and welcome to the channel. If you are new here, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any new updates from us. Trauma develops when you experience highly stressful or life-threatening events that cause physical, emotional, spiritual, or psychological harm. This leads to feelings of physical threat or extreme fright. Without any further ado, here are 10 signs you are traumatized. 1. You avoid anything that reminds you of the event. When you experience a life-threatening situation, you do everything not to feel as you did in the course of the event. You'll find yourself staying away from the environment, places, people, and things that would remind you of the traumatic event. You shy away from people or activities related to the event. An example is staying away from the family of a lost spouse or engaging in activities that'll take your mind off the traumatic experience. 2. You have distressing or intrusive thoughts about the event. Some people, especially those with highly creative minds, recreate the traumatic event over and over in their minds. Some experience the event again through repeated nightmares, and others can't get their minds off the event. If you find yourself amongst these, you are exhibiting one of the signs you are living with trauma. When we're not feeling our best, we can all experience intrusive thoughts. The major difference among trauma survivors is the narrative of these thoughts. A majority of trauma survivors report intrusive thoughts revolving around shame and guilt. 3. You are constantly on edge. Traumatic events make people emotionally vulnerable, and in your effort to prevent yourself from such feelings, you feel unsafe and become paranoid even in normal environments. This makes you struggle to feel safe amongst friends and families. Emotions are some of the most common ways in which trauma manifests. Some common emotional symptoms include denial, anger, shame, guilt, sadness, and emotional outbursts. Victims of trauma may redirect the overwhelming emotions they experience towards others, such as friends or family members. 4. You feel disconnected from people around you. Having gone through something you feel most people around you haven't experienced makes it difficult for you to communicate with them. You feel they cannot relate to what you are going through, and as such withdraw from them, thereby isolating yourself from day-to-day activities. 5. You have developed unhealthy behaviors to help with the negative feelings. As explained earlier, people who experience traumatic events try to numb the distressing feeling they have as a result of the experience. Some people turn to drugs, alcohol, and even uncontrolled eating in an attempt to do away or reduce the symptoms of the trauma they experience. When the symptoms of trauma become too much to cope with through normal means, many survivors of trauma turn to drugs and alcohol. Survivors are more likely to develop addictions than other members of the general population. 6. You have difficulty sleeping. As a result of the repeated nightmares and flashbacks of the traumatic event, having a healthy sleep becomes difficult. The fear of reliving the traumatic event again while sleeping often leads to anxiety, which in turn triggers insomnia. If you are having difficulty having a good night's rest as a result of a nightmare about a stressful event you experienced, it is one of the signs you are living with trauma. Trauma survivors understand that they need to rest, but find themselves unable to. For some, sleeping induces fear of nightmares and flashbacks. It doesn't offer relief, only more panic. It's common to experience a racing heartbeat, which in some cases can trigger panic attacks. 7. You develop some physical symptom. Since trauma occurs as a result of highly stressful events, victim exhibits certain physical symptoms of stress. Fatigue, headaches, digestive symptoms, sweating, and nausea are common physical effects of trauma. Also, traumatic experience tends to worsen an existing medical condition of people. 8. You are having difficulty concentrating after a traumatic event. The lack of sleep, mental exhaustion as a result of trying to avoid the thoughts of a traumatic event renders traumatized people tired. This exhaustion makes it difficult for you to concentrate on your work, school, family, and your day-to-day activities. The essential psychological effect of trauma is a shattering of innocence. Trauma creates a loss of faith that there is any safety, predictability, or meaning in the world, or any safe place we can retreat. Hyperarousal includes difficulty concentrating, being easily startled, irritable, angry, agitated, and hypervigilance. 9. You experience emotional outbursts. Experiencing emotional outburst is one of the signs you are living with trauma. Carrying the constant thoughts of the traumatic experience and not being able to share these thoughts with anyone else leads to emotional outbursts in an attempt to ease the mind of pent-up emotions. These outbursts could be sudden and excessive crying, laughter, or anger. 10. You try to stop thinking about the event. When you find yourself walking away from a conversation about an event because it is distressing, it might be a sign that you are living with trauma. People who have had a traumatic experience find it difficult to stop thinking about the event yet try to. They try to avoid talking about the event to anyone, including mental health providers. Conclusion: at one point or another, some people will experience traumatic events in their lives. Some may respond to it for a short while in the form of shock and distress and can easily recover from it. However, a minority of people will respond to traumatic events for a long term, as in the development of post-traumatic stress disorder. This involves a lengthy process of recovery. Understanding the symptoms and signs you are living with trauma, self-care and therapy can help you cope and manage symptoms from a traumatic event and improve your quality of life. There you have it, guys, 10 signs you are traumatized or living with trauma. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and feel free to leave a comment.